Welcome everyone to another Monsterama Junior panel. This is for Monsterama Con 2022. I am Kyle Mitchell. I am the second director for virtual programming, and you are now watching Yep, how Jordan Peele has flipped the script on horror. We've got some fantastic panelists with us today. We're going to talk about Jordan Peele's horror repertoire, his filmography, stuff that he has produced, directed, written, etc., and how that's impacted society, how he's changed, revolutionized the world of horror, and wherever that takes us, we'll see where that goes. So I will now ask our lovely panelists to introduce themselves, and why don't we start with Keisha?
Hi, everyone. I'm glad to be here. My name is Keisha Bertrand. I am just an all-around horror fan and, nerd about horror, and happy to be on this panel to talk about Jordan Peele and all of the greatness that he's done for the genre. So yeah, good to see you guys and good to be here.
Thanks so much. Hassan.
Hey folks, I am Hassan Wicker. I am a pro wrestler and cosplay and horror enthusiast, and can't wait to talk about some Jordan Peele. And yeah, let's have some fun.
Thank you. And Anthony.
I'm Anthony Liggins. I'm also a self-proclaimed blurred and the co-host of the Fandom Hybrid podcast. And I'm happy to be here to talk about one of my favorite directors and producers and comedians and all of those things, Mr. Jordan Peele.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome, thank you. And again, I am Kyle Mitchell. I'm the second director for virtual programming for Monsterama this year, and I'm a poet and a longtime Atlanta con goer, distinguished Toastmaster, and a proud member of the Dead Pirates of Sci-Fi Fandom, which run con suites and green rooms and stuff around a lot of Atlanta's conventions and so forth. So, and yes, also a very, very big Jordan Peele fan, and I love what he's done for society and for the industry and for fans, and yeah, so excited about this panel. And I'll say before we get into talking about Mr. Peele that growing up in Atlanta and having lots and lots of Black friends, and my wife, as I was telling the people in the green room, if you will, yeah, my wife is a blurred, and so I've loved seeing the community grow more and more diverse, and we here at Monsterama did not want to do this panel without having the proper representation here from our panelists. And so I'm so excited to have you all here today to have this great conversation. I hope you enjoy it and hope you learn something new. I have a feeling you're gonna learn some new stuff, and I'm looking forward to learning some new stuff as well. So I guess I'll just start with what was your, each of you will go around the horn and share your first exposure kind of, and your, maybe your evolution in learning about Jordan Peele and his career and how that's affected you personally.
So I'll tell my age here. I remember Jordan Peele from Mad TV, and I watched like Key and Peele and all the comedic stuff, but like to see like the transition from comedy to horror was like very interesting to me, because it's not so much different, because it's like if you look at those Key and Peele skits, how they just took like one concept and just made it funny. He'll do the same thing with one concept and make it scary. So to me, that was like, all right, yeah, I love this guy. I want to see it all. So
yeah, gosh, yeah. So you're not telling your age as much, because I remember Jordan Peele from Mad TV also, and yeah. I was kind of surprised when he went into horror. I wasn't really expecting that move, but when he did, obviously his first movie was Get Out. I was shook. I'm like, okay, Jordan Peele has come to the table, he's shown up, this is, and since then I've just been following his work and in the horror frame, but then it's also got that comedic elements to it as well.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that about his work. And and just like his presence like in the industry. So definitely like, like the last movie that he did, Nope. I mean, like, he's been shifting into kind of sci-fi a little bit, and I'm just really excited to kind of see where he goes from here, So yeah, definitely I've always been a horror fan, but wasn't really expecting, if anybody to come out of the gate and like, kind of shake things up. Definitely wasn't expecting Jordan Peele to do it, but I'm excited that it was him. Like, it definitely.
Yeah. If it was gonna be somebody, and it was him, I'm not mad. You know what I'm saying? But what do you think, Anthony?
Well, similar to the two of you, seeing him in Mad TV was like my first exposure. And Key and Peele was like the funniest show on TV at the time. They were hilarious. Like at the time, I was substitute teaching a little bit in the skit with the substitute teaching where he was saying the name. Where he was
Rod.
saying the names wrong. I was like, Rod. Yeah, that resonated so much with me. And I guess for me, him transitioning into horror, it wasn't surprising because some of the funniest skits they had, like with the zombies, if you remember the zombie skit, where the zombies wouldn't eat them because they were black.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is like, I don't want to say every black person's nightmare, but we're sitting there like, yeah, that's par for the course. And, and then watching Twilight Zone and seeing what he did with Twilight Zone, just the man, his mind is so fascinating and amazing how he can take these little concepts, like you said, and just kind of twist them just a little bit to make you feel uneasy and uncomfortable. And I think that seems to be like the staple of a lot of his work is, I'm going to show you the horrors of reality, but I'm also going to allow you to sort of feel kind of good about it at the same time and make you laugh.
And it's gonna make it black.
Absolutely.
Every time I see something with Jordan Peele's name on it, I'm like, oh, this is gonna be weird and very black, and I'm gonna love all of it.
I didn't know Lovecraft Country was produced by him as well, and I think I was maybe 3 or 4 episodes in when someone was like, "Well, yeah, Jordan Peele is, kind of the executive producer." I was like, "What?" And it totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I actually didn't realize that, and that's been on my list, Lovecraft Country. So I need to like move it up even more, like, because I hear such great things, and yeah, I think that was one of the things that I loved about Get Out is like, yo, this is how racism feels. Like somehow he has managed to like bottle up that anxiety and that pressure and that the gaslighting that you feel as a black person, like, and just like, everybody's like watching. I'm like, yeah, like this is like normal like things that we like deal with, and I just think that's awesome. Like definitely, I like Anthony, like what you were saying, like how he's just kind of managed to bring that in film and in cinema and media, like just like that anxiety and those like feelings that you get in reality, like on the big screen. So
yeah, and you mentioned Get Out, and you remember Get Out was nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Comedy or Musical, and you're like, comedy or musical? But then I remember it seemed when we went to the movie theater, we're here in South Atlanta, and the Southway 24, is I don't want to say is a mix, but the community is a little mixed community. But people were laughing during Get Out, and if you look around, it was the white people were laughing, but the black people, we were absolutely horrified, and so it made sense that it would be nominated for comedy musical because that's how white people kind of saw Get Out. But all of us, we watching it like, this is our worst fear right here.
Yeah, I saw it at like a hood theater, like North of Cat, something like that. So it was all black people, and that was the best way to experience. I felt like, and like my partner at the time was a white guy, and he's like one of the only white guys in there, and he's just like, oh man, this is amazing. Like I feel so honored to even be in here at this moment, like hearing everybody react to like the scenes and all of that. So yeah, I didn't have that experience, but I'm interested because I've never heard of like white people like laughing during Get Out. Like
Yeah,
I just,
even people at work were like, "Oh man, it was so
I was
funny." I'm
cracking
like,
up too. 'Cause,
"She was not funny."
What I thought about Get Out was like that wives' tale of like, don't be dating them white girls because they gonna they gonna come and take your body or some shit like that. So it was insane, especially dating interracially. And I went with a white woman. It was very lovely to be in the theater. So I was one of those people laughing and just like, oh yeah, okay, I see that. So it was.
Yeah, he nailed so much. It was so smart, so cleverly written to bring to light so much reality, but and I watched it the exact same way too. I was in I don't remember which theater I saw it. It probably was North DeKalb Mall theater, and I was so happy because I actually was like, okay, I'm in Atlanta because I live in Austin, Texas, but I was in Atlanta, but I'm from Georgia, and I was like, this is where I want to watch it. And it was so great because everyone in the theater, it was like 90% African American, and it was just like great. And there was lots of laughing, the real appreciation of it. I mean, like standing ovation at the end. It was amazing. And I think that there's something special that Jordan tapped into as well, with laughter being like an entry into dealing with this and bringing a lot of the casual racism to the surface, and presenting it for all audiences, including white people that need to learn some lessons and need to deal with some stuff. And so I thought that that's an extra thing that you all touched on that he does so well, is he uses humor as a way to both, I think, deal with the suffering and then or healing, right, and then also to as a way to soften the like a spoonful of sugar maybe to delivering his message.
Yeah, and I honestly feel like that's kind of what we have to deal with as Black people living in this country just on a daily basis. Like when you feel that uncomfortable, that unease, like when you're in situations similar to, Get Out, you kind of use humor to
sometimes
make it less
it's so
awkward.
it's hilarious.
Yeah, so like that's why it was so great that he just incorporated all of that into the film, like just that feeling that we have just existing like every day. So
and his ability to take you through all those feelings and emotions in one movie or even one show. You're sitting there and you're laughing and you're crying and then you're horrified and then you're anxious, and he just takes you through all these feelings. And to be honest, as a Black person in our society, we sort of can go through those emotions all in one day, at work and out in public, and you see cop cars drive by and you all of a sudden, are they going to pull me over? They're going to stop me. It's like you still feel like, to be almost always scared, especially as a Black man in this country, is we tend to have to find something funny. We have to find some things that kind of make us laugh a little bit, to kind of get that energy out and to not have to always have to face it all the time.
Or to appear less threatening to everybody,
because we all got a story about something that happened, like being fit in a description or being surrounded by cops. And it's like there's certain things that just happen that will horrify somebody else, but when you think back on it, it's like, man, that was almost hilarious. To like have another grown person say to me is like, speak when spoken to. I'm like, are you serious right now? And then like, but and like at the time I was furious, but when I think about it now, it's just like, man, that happened. Okay. And then like I'll make a joke about it and move on,
Yeah.
And to see it in the movie is like just little things like, you're not like just speaking about Get Out. It was like he wasn't even the one driving, but they asking for his ID and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's you speaking to me right now.
Is this a spoiler-free panel? Like, or can we talk about the films in their entirety? Because the ending of Get Out.
Let's spoil some shit. Spoil it. Let's talk about it.
They've been out long enough.
I think you're safe.
We ain't saying it by now. It's still fun.
People are still like, it's been years, but it's like no spoilers. I'm like, all right, yeah. So at the end of Get Out, you speaking on that, like you see those lights. He's hovering over this white girl, like choking the life out of her. You see these lights pop up, and it's like, fuck, like, and it's like, oh, sorry.
The whole crowd said, oh shit.
Yeah, like, and it's just like, oh man, and then it's like, it's the motherfucking TSA, like, it's like, yeah, like a collective sigh of relief, and it's those moments like just living like and existing, and just wanting like something good to happen. Like this dude's been through so much, please don't let him get arrested. And y'all know that was like the alternate ending. Did you see the alternate ending for Get Out? Like that was originally Jordan Peele was going to end it where he got arrested and was in jail, and it's like, this is my life now, but he changed it to what it was because this was during Trump time when Get Out came out. And so he just wanted everybody to have a hero and wanted everybody to have like this good, thing that happened at the end of this movie. Because he's just taking you through this like roller coaster of emotions. And then at the end, like he gets saved and it's good. But there is an alternate ending that, and it was just, I'm glad he went this direction because I think that would have been like, yo.
Yeah, I'm glad he did too, but like not knowing about the alternate ending, but the actual ending, it was sort of a callback to Night of the Living Dead for me, and watching that character, his name was Ben. Side note, that actor, that was like the first Black protagonist in a genre film ever. Yeah, but all the things that he went through that movie, being a Black man, and to make it all the way to the end, and you're thinking, okay, he's gonna make it, and then he gets shot by the cops. And I was like, oh my God, this is not gonna happen again. I'm watching, this is not gonna happen again. And like, oh, thank God it's the TSA, his buddy. So, and that's what, like earlier when I was saying the different layers that he has in these movies, they all make you think of all these feelings and circumstances, and he just sort of subverts your expectation. Like you're thinking it's the cops, here goes Black man, he's gonna be accused of killing her or whatever. And you sort of see the same thing in Candyman. Like he didn't direct it, but he produced it, and you sort of get the same thing at the end of that movie, where I'm not gonna say that. I'm too close to mirrors to be saying that name right now. So that's that was my one time, so I'm not gonna see it anymore. But one thing I did want to mention is all of his movies, and not including Twilight Zone, they all seem to have like this common theme about generational trauma. Like that was the big thing in Lovecraft Country, and then watching Candyman. Oh dang, that's twice. Okay, so that's twice, man. I got this big reflective computer screen here. I need to turn a little bit.
Yeah. This is where the editing process won't save us.
Bleep that out.
But even in Get Out and Us, you get that sense of we're also having to deal with the generational trauma of being Black in America and what that means. So, and I think he's sort of tapped into that subconscious of society that especially with Us, because that was such a race film to me. Because there's like, as is above is below. It's like, okay, there's like this one society you, and then like this one that's poor as fuck, that's blaming you for everything, So to me, that was just that was a callback to me. Like, it was a zombie movie. I forgot which one it was, where all the zombies were just kind of like looking at all the people, like the regular people from like this ocean, and then they just start walking under the ocean and just came over there and just fucked shit up. I can't remember which one it was, but that was how Us kind of felt to me, where it's like, okay, y'all are rich, we're hungry, we want this, we want your whole life,
We don't want to be sitting here eating rabbits. We want your shit. So, and they related it in clones so everybody can get it. But to me, that was a very racial thing, a very Black thing that, you know, somebody growing up in the ghetto before, you know, even from living in the ghetto at one time to living in like the suburbs now, I see like the different mentality of just like how when you live in poverty, you hate everything that's rich. And then when you get there, you almost hate everything that's poor. Or you just like shun your eyes from it. You know, you drive by homeless people or whatever like that. And like to see like us kind of like get that point and it's such an abstract of a movie, and you understand that at the end of the movie is like, man, it just kind of just went on like this whole mental roller coaster. And
Yeah.
it's also good to be high too if you watch it, right?
Yeah, and then also like that, speaking on that same theme with Us, you know, like you have those two families that are friends,
Yeah.
like in this film, and there's like the white family, and they're so like, oh, whatever, and like, oh, the yacht, like they're just very like, we don't care, nonchalant. And so you almost have those different layers, like with the others, like the, you know, the alternate people like in this subterranean like universe, but then you have basically what you were saying, like we want what you have, and this is what we're going to go after, but not as primal and visceral as like that friendship, you know, like where you see like they've got like more, and they're like this, you know, well-to-do family, but then like you also have, you know, that whole like genre of people, like, yeah, like that's really interesting for you to say that, just thinking about, you know, we want what you have, like, you know, why should we be the people that are like, you know, the others? Why should we be, you know, in this like in this universe? So, and I also really love how Jordan Peele like adds nods to classic horror in his films. Like, you know, with Us, I feel like he just kind of went overboard, not overboard, like, because I love the Easter eggs and like this, all the different like symbolism, and just the Michael Jackson t-shirt that the little girl had on, and like just so many different things that he just like added in. I just thought that was awesome.
Yeah, and also right in Us, he touched on some of the medical experimentation history and just distrust, you know, on that, and so it's, you're right. He and that's a perfect transition, perfect segue, because I definitely think you can't talk about Jordan Peele's movies without talking about his symbolism, and so I'd love to hear your opinions on that. Some for a while here. Yeah, Keisha, you mentioned the Easter eggs and nods to other horror classics and stuff, but there's also just so much symbolism, what the movie really, you know, movie stands for, and what the real message is, you know, starting with Get Out, but Us, and you know, most recently Nope as well.
Yeah, I think with Get Out, like, oh gosh, like I just like Stepford Wives, like I just like picked that up like almost instantly when, you know, like the Black people are just like being turned into these almost like zombie, like perfect, like, you know, husbands and spouses, and oh God, I just I love that he like kind of like brought that in, and then even with like, you know, Us, it wasn't as in your face. I feel like it was almost like you're starting to look for things, like, you know, you've seen like Get Out, you kind of like know, you know, what he's after, even like with the dad talking about like deer and Get Out, and he just had this like, oh yeah, I just think we should get rid of all the deer, and you know, like, and then he brings like the deer back in, like when the guy, I can't remember his like the character's name in Get Out, but he's sitting in that chair, and there's like this big like buck like on the wall, like mounted up, and he's thinking like, oh deer, you know, like all that stuff's coming back. And so I love how he kind of incorporates symbolism that he's introduced in the film, like back into moments where you just kind of come back and you're like, fuck, like he's really talking about like going in on deer and how they're like a pest and how they need to be eradicated. And then you start thinking like, wait, were you talking about Black people though? Like when you were like having, you know what I mean? And so I appreciate that about Jordan Peele. And then even with Nope, you know, like the symbolism there about just like, you can't tame like beasts, you know, like you think that you can have control over like animals in the wild, but you really, you really can't like, and I mean, yeah, so I'm not even gonna ramble about it, let you guys speak, but
I mean, the one thing that stood out to me going back to Get Out was, we have a long history of seeing movies that depict slavery and what happened during slavery. And here we have like this modern version of an auction block where they're parading him around and they're basically interviewing like who's going to pay the most to claim his body once you know what's really happening. And I don't know, and it just called back all these images of like the NFL draft and all these professional drafts and the sport combines where they're evaluating the athletes. Of course, they're not really slaves, but they're making millions of dollars. Unless you read the book about someone wrote a book about the draft not itself being like a plantation thing or whatever. But that whole scene is just really effective in showing you that this is sort of what a modern day slave block auction block is like. I don't know, Get Out is obviously my favorite of his movies because of all the different layers that's in there. And I don't know, there's a lot to unpack in all these movies. It's hard for me to just, that's the one that stands out the most.
Well, I'll throw another one in for you here. Here's my conspiracy theory about Get Out. With all the wonderful layers and symbolism there too. I actually think that it's Jordan Peele's apology letter to Dave Chappelle. And we know Dave Chappelle leaving Comedy Central and the Chappelle Show, and his bad taste with Key and Peele and their show kind of picking up and kind of copying what he did to a lot of success. I actually think that Jordan Peele in a way was apologizing, and that the story in a way, and as one other layer to it, is like Dave getting out of the slavery that Comedy Central essentially was. He felt like he said in interviews that he felt like he was brainwashed. These rich white producers and owners of the companies, so forth, using him and for his talent and so forth to, and as Keisha pointed out too, what is eventually essentially the murder weapon that Chris gets back at his captors there, in Get Out, is a buck.
A buck.
A buck.
Yeah.
So I haven't really ever seen any articles about this, so that's my own little conspiracy theory about it. But I kind of think that he threw in that extra layer there about Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, you should put that on Reddit right there. Yeah, he actually read a few of those. He actually read a few Reddit conspiracy theories and like fan theories from Get Out. Should put that one on there. He probably would address it.
Yeah, Hassan, what do you think about symbolism in his movies and stuff?
Oh man, there's definitely that. I mean, like, there's so much symbolism, and there's so much like things that he puts that like send you on like a wormhole. Like he'll like 11/11 was like prominent all through freaking Us. And then like he'll put other like time labels on like things like and they just sing you like all over the place with so much symbolism. It's like, man, what does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? And then like it's like Us is my favorite because it hits so much. Like if you even listen to the words of like the Hands Across America words, it's like he put everything in there. And like, I don't know if y'all ever heard it, but it's like, when you bleed, I bleed, or it's something like that. I don't have it right here in front of me. I should have wrote it down, but listen to those words, like Google those words. And then like, it's so much more that he just puts in there that I just missed, when you just got to watch it like 3 more times to even pick up on what he just said.
It almost it makes me wonder, like going to note, you know, when the film opens and there's like that shoe just like standing up and you're like, oh man, like what does this mean? You know what I mean? And you just like start thinking
Yeah.
about like where this came from and what you're trying to say. And even like you know, like the t-shirts that they were wearing like in the film, like he had on a Rage Against the Machine t-shirt, like that was symbolism itself. Like Jordan Peele like made an effort to have like the siblings like wear like different like things that represented like them, the family, like, you know, raging against the machine, like as far as like just fighting this alien thing that's like, you know, attacking everything. I mean, and you don't even really think about that, like, but you're looking for it at this point. You're looking for symbolism and all of that because you know that's like Jordan Peele's like bag. And I just think that's I almost wonder if he's like kind of messing with us sometimes. Like, there's really
Yeah,
nothing about
it
this,
definitely is. Just to
you
send you
know?
off.
Yeah, just to like
But
see people talk about it.
yeah, because
Yeah.
like even you talked about Nope and the taming of the beast, but it also was about this is what happens when you exploit nature, like
Yeah.
exploiting animals. And it made me think of
Yeah.
Harambe. Remember Harambe the gorilla, who just kind of
Yeah.
went crazy. And anytime we try to like exploit, like me, I don't really like going to circuses because of the animals. I think the last time I went to a circus, I was looking at the elephants. It was and I was like, Universal. I went to Universal Circus. I'm like, do these elephants really want to do that?
Mhm.
And I kind of like, I don't dig it at all anymore. Like none of that stuff. Like SeaWorld, I don't really care for going there anymore
Same, yeah.
because and this movie resonated with me because yeah, when we try to exploit nature and even the main characters with they have the horses and they're training the horses to be in the movies and how the horse just has this reaction to in one of the scenes and being filmed. No, the animals don't want that, I don't think. And this movie is pivots on one of the characters trying to exploit the UFO or the flying
Yeah.
creature,
That
and
was
they
their
pay
whole
for it. They pay for it dearly.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think exploitation is a good word, and I know I've read where he himself has said the movie is about spectacle and
Yeah.
how
Yeah. Humans love a
fans,
spectacle.
yeah, are kind of obsessed with watching stuff these days, and the main again, I guess we don't have to worry about spoilers, but the main kind of alien ship entity itself is weakened when it doesn't have viewers.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And so there's just it's so many and I think that he with each new project he keeps kind of it's like investigative journalism, and he just keeps
Yeah.
shining a light on another area of our society that needs to be looked at and addressed. So
Yeah.
I loved more of that. And I don't know if this is what he was doing. I thought Nope was a little bit more like Lynchian, like more David Lynch, obvious, like literal symbolism and allegory with that shoe that just keeps floating, standing up, like you're literally waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know if
Yeah.
that's what he was trying to say there or not, but
Yeah.
it's definitely creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true because that's what that thing did. It was just like when they pissed it off and it went and shit on their house, basically. So
Yeah, and then the
Yeah.
child
but when
star.
you think about the spectacle, I mean, like you can even put that back to like the auction block type of deal, and like to even think about us and to think about like what was the woman that they put on display that they still have her body parts like displayed in some museum, the black woman with the
Lynchings,
big butt.
unfortunately,
Yeah,
lynchings too.
yeah. And like there's this big spectacle. There's like there's like sympathy for the devil when you see like, okay, when you think about that, it's like shit, I don't want to be like put on display. And when the thing came in there and ate everybody because that he wanted to show everybody the world to see like, oh, I got this thing under my control. He trusts me. That's why you're still here. And then he just came in and fucked everything up. And to think about that, so like, okay, they put everybody on like a display. Like think about like how much Shaq is like displayed and put on this pedestal when he was like, you know, the biggest NBA players. Like we love spectacles, we love zoos. We want to see like the giant squid at the bottom of the ocean. It's like these are the things we want to see. And then when you see it, it's like, do you really want to see it? You know?
Yeah.
So,
And knowing that that's what people want to see, and like trying to capture that in like the taming of the beast and the exploitation of like nature and all of that. It's like, oh, this is what you want. Okay, let me see if I can capitalize on this some way. You know, like this is an alien, and this guy is like thinking like, oh yeah, you know, even like with his clothing, with the UFO like bedazzled like on the back of his shirt and everything, and it's just like, oh, like he's been on this, you know, like talking about like the horses, like, you know, they're thinking they can buy their horses back, but no, those horses are gone. Like he has fed them, sacrificed to this alien thing, and then even like the appearance of the alien, the UFO itself. You know, when it first appeared, it was very mechanical. It looked very like machine, but as the movie progressed, it got more animal, like it looked more like natural, like not as synthetic. You know what I mean? Like, and you could kind of like see that it's not machine, it's like it's creature. And I like that you could visually like detect that, like it wasn't as perfectly like cylinder, like, you know, it just, you could tell that it had that it was just like a creature. And I think that was like pretty awesome. And
I thought brilliant. I mean, that it's, if he's trying to make a point about spectacle and how we obsess over, you know, how many views a video got, or watching watching really horrible things, you know, crashes and disasters and abuse and things like that happen on our 24-hour news cycle now, that when you boil it down, you know, we get desensitized to it and see things as one thing, but then really what's behind that is it's really human and organic. It's more real than we think at first, that it's alien, but it's really a lot closer to home and our own human horror than we thought at first. Plus, this is Monsterama, and I have to say that in Nope, that was just one of the most unique, original monsters, if you will, that I've ever seen in modern movies.
Yeah. And then even like speaking of spectacle, when the alien like almost defecated blood over this house, it's like, you want a spectacle? Here you go. This is, you know, and it's like all of this like debris, like people that have been eaten, like, I mean, showering over this like home, like talk about a spectacle, you know what I mean? Like, so yeah.
And remember that they mentioned in that Bible verse, it was like, I can't remember what it said, but at the beginning of the movie, there was a Bible verse that said, I will make you scarred or something like that. And that's really what the thing did. So it was a callback.
Yeah. And about the monster itself, like, it looked like a UFO, the flying saucer, the traditional thing that we think of. And then at the end, it's like this beautiful creature with these beautiful like butterfly wings, swallowtail, and then it's like also absolutely terrifying at the same time. And you know, and it also made me think of It with Stephen King, and how it just draws you in and you have to look at it, and it just feeds off of your fear. And you know, like I said, Jordan Peele, I don't know, I saw an interview where he talked about he wants to put his nightmares on screen, and I'm telling you, I think
that was definitely a nightmare.
It was a nightmare, clearly.
I mean, just the claustrophobia that set in for me, like when you show what was actually happening, you slowly digest it and got to sit there and scream for days. It was just horrible. I mean, like that is one of the worst ways to go, especially while you're sitting there just waiting your turn. You can't even move to cut your own throat. It's like, oh my God, no, I don't want that. Nope.
Nope. And that's so brilliant too, that he brings in, you know, like so many Black viewers, you know, horror fans and stuff are always like, nope, not going in that room. That I know.
It's funny because Candyman, there's a scene
No,
where
you said it twice.
oh god, that's 3 times.
No.
Okay. In that remake of that, in that sequel of that movie that came out so many years ago about the
Too late now.
ghost. Yeah. There's a scene where the main character's girlfriend is looking for him, and she goes into the laundromat, and she goes to a locked door. She opens the door, and it's his dark staircase going down. She goes, "Nope," and she closes the door and walks away.
Yeah.
I was like, that's where he put it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're sitting in theaters doing that, like nope, even like with Get Out, like just like watching that and like seeing like some of those scenes, like when he goes into the closet and finds the pictures of like all of these like men and people that like his girlfriend had dated. You're almost like saying like, nope, don't go in that closet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like not knowing what he's gonna stumble on. But like speaking of going back to Nope, when he the alien like and how it just like kind of like evolved into this like big creature at the end, like I don't know if any anime fans here, but that gave me like Neon Evangelion vibes. Like I don't know if y'all ever watched that, but the angels, like how they just were these like magnificent things that were like terrifying and like it had beauty to it. Like, and I'm still like processing. I need to watch Nope again. I've only seen it the one time, but like for it to go from this like flying saucer, like mechanical thing to something very like almost elegant and organic, like in the sky, that you can't like turn away from, like I'm just wondering where he was trying to go with like those different like visual elements of this creature.
Well, he's an anime fan too, because he did another one. I actually watched Nope this morning. So there's another one, and it's a callback to Akira.
Yeah.
Where she slides the motorcycle, like when she turns it and it slides, that's like cut for cut right out of Akira, right there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I was just seeing an interview with him where he was saying he almost directed the live action Akira movie, and so he's like, yeah, but I got that motorcycle slide in.
Nice. So that definitely was a nod then, like oh, that's awesome.
And I've heard people say that Nope being an acronym because it's all capital letters, not of planet Earth.
That's a good one.
The alien UFO stuff, like I love it. It's so brilliant. One thing I
love how stuff is so abstract, where it's like, okay, you can put anything in here, like wherever your imagination takes it. Is like, because this movie is so abstract. It's like it doesn't even matter what the monster even looked like. You just know it's there. And then like, and every single chance you get, it's like, nope, okay, I'm not doing that. Nope. And like it's such a callback to pretty much every Black character. And like I think my favorite Black character in a horror movie was like, it was this Black kid from Night of the Demons. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It was like right when the zombies appeared, he's like, "You're not gonna get me," and he just fucking dived out the goddamn window. And I loved every second of it. And every chance he got, he was like, "Nope," and then he would run the other way, leaving everybody. It was like he was running with people, but if they didn't run, he just left their ass. And I love that guy. So if y'all could ever get a chance to see Night of the Demons, watch it just for that one character. It's freaking great.
And that's another significant thing that Jordan Peele has done is we always see Black people in horror movies as like side characters or fodder for the killer. Here he's making like these horror movies from the perspective of Black people and how we would sort of react in these situations. Like how many times you see a character
because we all say it. It's like,
nope, not gonna do it.
And we all
are
like,
the first to die,
Right.
Like Black people are always like the red shirts of like horror movies, like, oh, there's a Black person, like, oh, let's see how long he's gonna last. You know what I mean?
It's like every single.
And now they're all the final girl,
Oh, it's great. It's great.
Which actually, I know he's branching in now. Like I'm looking on his IMDb, and his next producing credit is an animated film called Wendell and Wild, a PG-13 animated film. So that's great. I just love it. I'm sure it's going to be his usual touch. And I wanted to talk a little bit about here. So he started Monkey Paw Productions, I think 5 years before Get Out, and so that's changed the industry. And so beyond just like one director making his impact, he's now got this production company that, as we've talked about already, produced so many other great shows and movies and stuff beyond the ones he's directed and stuff. So I'd love to hear what you think about that impact on the whole industry and society and stuff, just from Monkey Paw Productions.
I mean, it's definitely had a huge impact. I mean,
Yeah.
who comes out of the gate and he wins an Oscar, and now he's pretty much writing whatever he wants. And even with the movie that I can't say anymore, he was going to direct that movie, right? He was going to direct that movie, and then decided to become a producer. And he hired what was her name,
Nikki Costa.
Yeah.
Nia Costa, yeah, and now she's directing movies for Disney and Marvel. She's directing the Marvel's movie. So his impact is like it's sending all kinds of ripples throughout the industry.
It's the representation we needed. Is like, because like you had like Martin Scorsese for the Italian and mobster movie genre, and it's like now you have like somebody new on in this genre who's like one of us, and he's already said it's like he's always going to be a Black lead. He's going to be telling Black stories. So it's like, yeah, why not? There's nothing. I'm loving every minute of that, because that's exactly what we need.
Yeah, especially like in horror also, because you look at other like Black directors like Spike Lee and Ava DuVernay, like they're talking about our pain and like things that we experience as Black people, like and Jordan Peele does that also, but you don't see that like in horror. You can't, when you think about like horror directors, you don't think about like anybody Black, like I said, like even Black people as characters in these movies like are just kind of like one-offs. So the fact that like he's kind of opening up this door not only for other Black like creators and like producers and directors, but just talent. Like you're seeing like all of these like actors like that you maybe would never see in anything else, and then like they're just like kind of taking off like in their own right, like in other films and all of that. And so I definitely think that it was a needed thing. Like it's surprising to me that it's taken this long for somebody like to kind of like break into the industry and like do what he did. I mean, even with Get Out, I think it had like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes at one point, which is like hard to do. You know what I mean? And it's like, yo, okay, Jordan Peele, like, what are you about? Like, let me sit down. And now it's like whenever he's got a movie that comes out, you don't even need to know the premise. Like Jordan Peele did it. Okay, like I'm sold. I'm in. Like let's go.
It's gonna be Black and weird.
Yeah.
And then
what
we
I
have
do
like,
about. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, we had like, she was talking about the talent. We have Jonathan Majors, who's in Lovecraft Country. He's now a big talent. Daniel Kaluuya. Daniel Kaluuya.
Daniel Kaluuya.
Journey Smollett. All these people are, we see them in stuff, but we haven't seen them go to that upper echelon of Hollywood productions. And now he seems to be bringing those people into that atmosphere.
And it's such a genre.
Horror.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's such a genre that was untouched. Like before, like you were saying, it was like a handful of Black people that even lived through horror movies. Like you can almost count them. It was like, Night of the Demons, freaking Friday the 13th Part 5, like the LL Cool J version of like Halloween. I mean, in the Busta Rhymes version of Halloween, it's like, some rapper. Oh yeah, and Jada Pinkett and the Creepshow movie, Tales from the Crypt. But I mean, even when you thought about horror, you always thought about just gore and everything like that. Now, when you think about horror and you think about Jordan Peele, you don't think about a reboot of some 80s shit like, Carrie or whatever the fuck. It's like he's telling some new stories, and we're all hanging on there because the performance is so great, and that's why they're getting nominated for Oscars. It's like you would have never saw a freaking Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street nominated for anything. Probably a Razzie, but and now it's like it's something I want to see, and it's not so much of I like horror movies and I liked them better when I was a kid, but now that I'm grown, it's like, I don't want to see all that gory shit. I want to see a good movie. Tell me a good story. And now, he's telling me a good story.
Yeah, and my cat wanted to join the conversation apparently. So but yeah, like I feel like there's this whole like genre in horror now, or it's like elevated horror. Like Jordan Peele's spoon feeding you things like you're kind of used to in horror movies. Like you're used to the jump scares and like, oh, like we have been desensitized in a lot of ways. And so you see that with Jordan Peele's movies, and then even like studio, like I can't remember the name of it, but like Hereditary and like all those different like movies.
A24.
Yes.
A24. Yeah.
And like so, anytime I see anything that comes out from the studio, I'm like, I'm sold. Like I don't even need to know the concept. I just know I'm gonna be in for a ride. And I feel like Jordan Peele has kind of like gained that notoriety, like with his films, like with elevated horror. Like a lot of people didn't like Nope because they're like, well, the character development, and just like had all these different like reasons for not liking it. And sure, like have your opinions, but I do feel like it's because you're not being spoon-fed things. Like he wants you to think about like what you're seeing and like what's going on. And so
the thing I heard in the interview, I don't know if it was with him or someone else, but it's a genre that sort of had went away. That's not really horror. It's called social thrillers. And like his favorite horror movie of all time is Rosemary's Baby. And that was like a social thriller about a woman's right to do whatever she wanted with her body. And then there was The People Under the Stairs, which is about gentrification. And then The Stepford Wives is about a women's place in society. So all these horror movies are really social thrillers. And if you look at Us, we talked about Us being about the disadvantage, wanting to get what they deserve and get what the rich people have. And the movie that I will not name is also about gentrification.
Yeah.
And they just kind of throw it in your face, the whole movie. And Get Out speaks for itself. So and if you watch Lovecraft Country, every episode is sort of a social thriller or a social commentary. And you're right, it makes his stuff makes you really think, and it's tapping into that primal instinct and feeling that we have about certain things. And it speaks to all of us, not just Black people, but white people too, because we're all in this thing together, and there are things that legit should scare us, and it's happening every day. And he's just like I say, he's putting the nightmares that we all have on screen, and they're not necessarily all about monsters, or the monsters all represent something.
I'm curious, I want to hear from all of you. What do you want to see Jordan Peele do next?
Man, like for fan service only, for me, I would love to see another season of Lovecraft Country. I know it'll never happen, but that was really what I wanted to see. I was loving that show. And personally, I want to see him take on something, I don't know, like I had to think on that. Because I kind of want to see him like direct something that's not meant to be horror and then make it horror. Like if he can like direct an episode of Loki or something like that, and like just make that like really fucked up. Like if you give him like a multiverse thing from Marvel and just let him just do his thing. That's what I would.
Part of me, part of me wants to say I'd love to see him do something with zombies, even though zombies are just like that, they're so played out, but then it's like so classic, But I think that they love to see him like tap into his dystopian like anything like, futuristic, or maybe even flexing that sci-fi muscle a little bit more, like, because we kind of see that in Nope. And, you could see like he had the budget for this movie, you needed to go see Nope on a big screen. And he knew that. And so I would love to see, like what he does with like, robots and things like that in the future, and his take on that, and like bringing that social commentary into that conversation. Like, I think I would like to see that.
Well, I think I was going to say the same thing. Like, we have very few really good sci-fi space horror movies, and I would like to see his take on a sci-fi like space horror film.
Yeah.
I think it would be something that he hasn't done. There may be like 1 or 2 episodes of The Twilight Zone that's sort of in that same vein, but I would like to see a full-length movie with him, directing some people on the space station doing some traumatic crisis.
Yeah, like an Event Horizon kind of deal.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, something like that.
Yeah. Oh, that would be so good.
I would also like to see him direct Keegan-Michael Key in one of his actual horror movies.
Yeah.
Instead of just all the comedy things they've done, I actually want to see him in one of his like horror movies and see what Keegan does in one of his.
He's been making some good stuff the last couple of years, Keegan, and I agree as well. I'm sure they've talked, but if it's not the right fit, yet, I would also love to see them kind of work together again.
Yeah. I used to cosplay Keegan-Michael Key's character from Mad TV, Coach Hines. So I love that guy. Just as much as.
Well, though, I think one of the best things to come from his success is his platform has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, and obviously his budgets have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger as well, which means he can do more, right? But I also think that if he was to go off and let's say he got a Marvel movie or something, if he would even take one, then you lose that independent film quality where he can really make tell the story he wants to tell, show the message he really wants to show. But I would love to see a trilogy. I'd love to see both. The things that I would most excited about Jordan Peele doing is something where he can get a trilogy in the same universe or whatever, and then whatever that is. I agree with all of you. I want to see all of that. I want to see the space horror and everything, and then also I love to see his own original anthology, like maybe like you had a Tales from the Crypt or Tales from the Dark Side movie, Twilight Zone movie. I'd love to see that on the big screen.
Yeah, that would be good to like let him just have like a whole bunch of ideas and just let it get played out. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I think I would love to see an anthology, like even like series, like almost like American Horror Story, like how like Ryan Murphy like just has all these different stories that come out like every season, and now every episode is a different story. And I feel like Jordan Peele is just so creative, and he's just got this genius. I'm sure he's like sitting on a pile of like things that he could like talk about and write about like story wise. So I think that would be cool too. Like an anthology.
Yeah, that guy's an amazing writer. I mean, like to even take like some of the small concepts that he's done. I mean, even in comedy, like when I remember, like I used to write with Anthony, and we used to make the joke about the Magic Negro, and then like I look on Key and Peele and they do a whole skit about the Magic Negro. It's like, there can only be one Magic Negro. I'm like, oh, I love this fucking guy. It's like, so there's so much that he could do with just one small concept. I'm sure he has like tons of ideas. To see like a Tales from the Crypt or something where he just sits there. He's like, okay, well, what if we just made it up on the spot and just like really just came up with some shit? It can be really dope. So.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool to see him like almost do kind of like like I said, dystopian, like a Black Mirror sort of thing, where it's like horror and creepy, but it's got that sci-fi element, like, and Black Mirror is an anthology series also, so just maybe flex in that space would be cool.
Yeah, take my money.
Yeah, right.
Because he's so good, he doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. He can like if he really like with Twilight Zone, he proves it. I mean, like he just did a reboot or something and just made it made it his own. I mean, like, I think he can take on something like it can run right next to Black Mirror and it'll still be great, you know, because it's him.
Right. And be able to add that social commentary in almost every single episode, you know, of the Twilight Zone series. It was beautiful. Oh, for our viewers too, I'd have to point out too, this was not planned, but in the background here, we have horses and a telescope in Darren's library here as well. Some symbols from Nope. And I came into this room, I was like, oh, did you put the, you know, those there on purpose? It was great. It was meant to be. There's awesome symbolism even in the Jordan Peele panel.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I have like a little monkey back here, like, you know, so it could be like a Gordy kind of thing.
Yeah.
I have my coffee cup.
Yeah, I do kind of wish like they touched on that a little bit more, like going back to Nope, like, and like Jordy, and like I feel like there was just this whole like thing with like it, and it isn't the whole theme of like not being able to, you know, contain nature and like letting things like be what they are, but just like I love how he kind of weaved that whole storyline into the current like things happening in Nope. But I'm also like I think maybe like us as viewers are like wondering, okay, like we're almost like wondering like what does this mean, like what anticipating, and I try not to go into films that way, especially Jordan Peele, like just looking for things, but I am still, you know, and I'm just like, even now, like having seen Nope, I'm like, I can't, Jordy, like I feel like I just didn't get enough, like I need to know more, like, you know.
Well, with that is with chimps. So I hear like if they don't imprint on you or whatever, you can't make eye contact with them. So, you know, if they get pissed off at you, that's what they do. They fuck you up and eat your face. But the kid, you know, Jordy or whatever, like connected with the chimp to the point where the chimp wanted to give him the exploding fist bump, you know, right when he got shot in the head. But that was like the almost the same. That was like a prelude to what Daniel Kaluuya's character was doing with the beast thing. He was like, he wasn't looking at him. He was just kind of like setting him up. So finally, he did look at him, and then that's when they had that connection. But it was a prelude to a kiss to set up the later part.
And a little bit of there's still, you know, some humanity kind of left, and it just goes to show you how some of the exploitation, you know, hurts you, but there's still, you know, a human inside you, you know, even no matter how traumatized you've been or how abused you've been or conditioned or, you know, disenfranchised and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's like that connection, like, you know, the human animal connection and bond, like, you know, like even with pets, like, and just like kind of like speaking on that and how they were connected to the horses and
especially Lucky.
Yeah, like at the end of it, like a milk, I can't remember the name of the horse, but like I'm just like, no, like please don't let this horse, like, you know, I'm just like wanting everybody to be safe and like thinking about that, you know, like that, just that bond that you have, like, because, you know, at the end of the movie, that's the last scene we see, like him sitting on this horse, like, oh, we just did this, you know, and having that connection. And
I wonder if you all thought maybe there was some theme of reclaiming in this, you know, talking about how the first, you know, moving picture was the black jockey, you know, on the horse, and then how I just love how he also teaches history in his movies, you know, bit by bit as well. But I kind of came out of seeing Nope with a sense of a little bit of reclamation and saying, okay, going, because at first, right, Daniel's character wanted to you know, he didn't care about the past as much, you know, and he about the family business and stuff as much, right? And but then through the process of the movie, he began to respect his past and what so many people before him had done. And I don't know if you felt the same way or.
Yeah, I can see that. It was you had to understand that that this thing was an animal and it couldn't be tamed in the right way, but it could be, not necessarily broken is what he was going for, like a kind of like a cohesion, like when he took it on the ride. I mean, like that was like such a, that's a trainer's moment right there. You can just get this animal to connect with you in some type of way. And like the symbolism in that was like what he did with that, what he did with the horse, and even going back to the chimp. I mean, like there's certain things you can't totally break. And then there's some things you can. There's like some cohesion in there. And it was like that man-nature balance is what I was getting out of that.
I mean, to your point about the reclamation, there is an idea of reclamation throughout Jordan Peele's work. Like if you look at Us, it's about reclaiming your place. That's what she was trying to do. And in Get Out, it's about reclaiming your identity of self and who you are. And then in Nope, you have like a reclamation of your history and your traditions, because even though he sort of believed in what his father was doing in the family business, I don't think he really understood it like his father did. And I think towards the end, he started realizing, despite all this other stuff going on, the connection that he had with the horse and the training that the horse had gone through was something that came back to him, like that was important to him. It was important to the story. So there's an idea of reclaiming and reclamation throughout Jordan Peele's work, apparently, except for that movie that I'm not going to name, where they're trying to reclaim your identity as a people and not, being fodder for police or society.
Yeah, I feel like like speaking about Get Out and like reclaiming and your history, like that's definitely a good point that you just made, Anthony, as far as like, oh, I'm just doing this because this is like, I'm the next in line to like train horses, and like I know how to do it. I've been like taught how to do it, but I don't really resonate with it because this is just what I've been told to do. And I feel like at least in my family, that's just kind of like things that happen, like, oh, like I know about my history and I know about this, but I don't really like resonate with it in like a certain way. And so there are these moments where almost like life or death situations happen where it just comes back. It just comes to you, and like you start embracing it. And it's like second nature. You don't even have to think about like what it is that you're trying to accomplish, because it's always been there. It's always been a part of you. And that's when you start to celebrate it and use it as a strength, rather than like something that was just kind of bestowed upon you because like, oh, I'm next in line. Like this is what my grandfather did, my dad did, and I think there's a lot of power in that, like just knowing that this is a part of you and tapping into that when it's like most crucial, like when it's time to like show up, so.
Yeah.
It's exactly what I was thinking, because even in the movie that we can't say 3 times, that there's that was woven in that the Tony Todd version didn't have, that kind of next generation and like kind of picking up the mantle and doing the work that maybe you don't feel like, hey, I'm not John Lewis, I'm not the next MLK, but picking up that and continuing the hard work that still needs to be done. And I hope that we get to a place where we don't have to do that anymore, but I think that's a powerful message that I think is coming through in several of the movies that we're talking about.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it's almost like a burden itself to have to pick that, to have to do that work, like, here we go. Like, there's this moment where things are going haywire, and like as a Black person, it's just like, okay, let me show up to not fix, but like, it's almost like we know like what to do, like, because just being Black in America, like showing up and having to do the work, but not really wanting to do the work, but it's a generational thing that like, it's just always going to be a thing that we have to do. And so I like that he kind of like weaves that into his work in a sense, like that generational trauma, like we talked about at the very beginning. of this, and the power that you can find in those generations. Like, just thinking on the flip side, it's like it's all trauma, but it doesn't necessarily have to be rooted in trauma. Like, there's power and strength in just being, and just like that history, that those 400 years, like just things that we have dealt with as a people. And yeah, like I love that, like the just the generation thing that we see in a lot of his films. And yeah.
Well, we're almost out of time, but I want to give you a chance. Any kind of final thoughts, or anything else that you want to give our audience about what Jordan Peele has done for horror, and or anything at all about anything we've talked about today, but before we kind of roll the final credits?
Well, I'm happy to have had this opportunity to talk about Jordan Peele, because as important as I think he is becoming, the man is a national treasure. We need to protect him at all costs.
At all costs.
And I know him coming into his own as a horror director, producer. I'm really looking forward to him going outside of that and expanding into other genres as well, to see what he brings to the table, because I think he does seem to have a lot to say. And my favorite directors always have something they want to say in their films. Like, it's not just one movie or two movies, but like all of their movies. I'm not really talking about Spike Lee, but all their movies have something to say, and that's what I'm really looking forward to him. And to talk about him the way we talk about Stephen King and Wes Craven and Clive Barker and all these horror people, that's pretty much where Jordan Peele is now, in that upper echelon of directors in the genre.
Yeah. And not just horror directors neither. It's like I put him in the same spot as Steven Spielberg or even Martin Scorsese, because the niche that he's carved out, I mean, like, he's a pioneer in this point, because I'm anxious to see what the next generation brings because of what he's already done. So I'm like, this umbrella is about to open up like really wide, because you see him, and now you see like Ryan Coogler stepping up and doing like the movies that he's making, and then like, like you mentioned, Nikki Costa. Is like there's Blossom coming up just because of what he's done just in his horror movies alone.
Yeah, definitely. And then I also like, with some of the like Black directors, like you could Spike Lee, a lot of people, like I like that Jordan Peele has like captured all audiences, because, a lot of people like didn't go see Spike Lee movies. It was like, oh, those are Black.
Yeah, it was just us. Yeah.
That's not for me. That's for them. You know what I mean? And and now you got like droves of people showing up to see Jordan Peele's movies, and he's opening up the door for like more people, like we talked about, to come in and like, take the reins and like, let's see your, like interpretation of like film and horror and all of that. And so it's not a Black movie, it's like, even like with like thinking about like Black Panther, like how big of a deal that was. It was like a predominantly like Black cast, but like white people are showing up to see this movie because it's a Marvel movie. And so, like you think about that with like Jordan Peele, like, like people are showing up like of all like diversities. And so we see even more of that with Ava DuVernay, like, like people like kind of like coming to watch like a film by a Black director that's not for Black people. You know what I mean? And I'm just really excited.
It's not Tyler Perry.
Like, right. And see, I'm not a big Tyler Perry fan, what I mean? But I feel like Jordan Peele is like, I don't even want to compare him to Tyler Perry, like, but like he is opening a door, like just to bring like everybody in. And it's not like centered on, just, like having to be like for Black people. And I'm just really excited to see what else he's got. Like, I feel like he's a young guy, like, I'm just excited to see what's coming down the road for him. I mean, like, and there's so many opportunities, like, with just graphics and media, and like people are just kind of like coming out of the box with different ways to like tell these stories, and he's so creative, and I'm excited. It's cool that we're even sitting here having this conversation, like So, you know, there's definitely some things that are happening in this industry, and I'm glad to have been a part of this, and you know, just even having a conversation about it today. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I wish, yeah, the conversation could go on forever and ever. You know, we might have to have another panel next year.
Yeah.
This one unfortunately has to come to an end right now, but I
Oh,
want to give you a chance to tell everybody where they can find you online and social media and what you've got going on in your world. Anthony, you want to start off?
Yeah, you can find me at MitchAnt2 on Twitter and Instagram. Also, you can listen to me with my other co-hosts on the Fandom Hybrid podcast at fandomhybrid.com. Multi-genre podcast. We talk about everything from fantasy to sci-fi, Marvel, you name it, we probably talk about it. You should check us out.
yeah, awesome. You can find me at Marvelous Marco. That's Marco spelled with a K on Instagram. You can see me perform at Deep South Wrestling November 25th at 7 stages, and see me all around the world as Papa Marco. And yeah, that's me.
And yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Zibbity Z, like ZIBBITYZ. Also, same thing on Twitter. You can find me there. This is like I work in tech, Ladies That UX Atlanta. I'm a co-organizer of that. So if you're a tech person and you do like user experience things, like come to our sessions once a month. You can find us on meetup.com, and yeah, like come find me. Like, let's talk. Let's keep the conversation going. Feel free to hit me up on Instagram or Twitter and ask questions. Like, I love this, and so definitely embrace that.
Awesome. Thanks so
Also,
much.
let's put it out that I'm also a personal trainer. So if you're looking to get in shape and talk nerdy while we work out, hey, I'm also there.
There you go. Thank you. Well, thank you all. And again, I'm Kyle Mitchell. And if you want to find me on social media, give me any feedback about this panel or any other panels that I'm moderating this year, you can reach me at Poet Kyle. If you want to read any of my poetry, just Google Kyle Mitchell and poetry. You'll see my 2 books, Slang and A Dream of Christmas.
Awesome.
Thank you all so much for this wonderful conversation. And
much needed.
If any of y'all are coming to the live Monsterama Junior event on October 8th, hopefully I'll see you there.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.